You wake up and reach for your phone right away. You work while your attention is constantly split. You eat with a screen in front of you. You stay up too late. You live inside noise, instant stimulation, and a non-stop cycle of quick rewards. From the outside, it can look completely normal because this is how many people live now. But from a neuroscience perspective, your attention system is being fragmented a little more every day. Your brain is not getting true rest, and it is not getting the conditions it needs for deep focus either. That is why you feel tired even when you have not done anything physically demanding. That is why concentration feels harder than it used to. And that is why motivation seems to fade without any obvious reason. There is another way to live and work, a more intelligent way, a way that works with the brain instead of constantly fighting against it, a way that can help you do more in one focused morning than you used to do in an entire distracted day, a way that can make clarity, creativity, and discipline feel more natural instead of forced. But here is the important part. This kind of change does not come from one dramatic breakthrough. It comes from small actions, repeated consistently in the right order. In this video, we are not talking about motivation in a vague way. We are talking about a full system of habits and environmental changes that can upgrade your nervous system from the foundation. And once these pieces start working together, they stop feeling like random tips and start becoming a real operating system for your life. The first principle is the 90-minute rule. Work with your biology, not just with the clock. The human brain was not built to stay deeply focused for hours without interruption. It tends to function in natural cycles of about 90 minutes, often called ultradian rhythms. During each cycle, you get a period where focus, energy, and creativity are naturally higher. After that, your mental energy begins to decline whether you want it to or not. When you ignore that decline and keep pushing, you do not become more productive. You usually become slower, foggier, and more emotionally drained. So instead of trying to force 4 or 5 straight hours of work, start by protecting one deep 90-minute block each day. Remove distractions, silence notifications, and let your brain work in the conditions it was built for. That one block can become the beginning of a completely different relationship with focus. When that focus cycle ends, your brain does not need more stimulation. It needs a shift in state. That is where walking becomes powerful. Walking is not just light exercise. It is one of the easiest ways to activate the brain's default mode network, the state linked to internal processing, idea connection, and unexpected insight. This is often where solutions appear after you stop forcing them. Walking also improves blood flow to the brain, lowers stress hormones, and gives your nervous system room to reset. You do not need to turn it into a workout. A slow 10 to 15-minute walk, without headphones and without a screen, is enough. It may seem too simple to matter, but simplicity is often what the brain responds to best. Sometimes the fastest way to get a better answer is to stop pushing and just move. The next layer is nutrition, because your brain cannot perform well if the fuel you give it is unstable. The brain uses a huge amount of energy every day, and the quality of that fuel directly affects attention, memory, and mental clarity. Foods rich in omega-3s, like fatty fish, support the structure of brain cells. Foods rich in antioxidants, like berries, help protect the brain from stress and damage. Even a small amount of dark chocolate can support blood flow to the brain. But what matters is not only what you eat, it is also how you eat. If you eat while working, scrolling, or rushing, your body stays in a mild stress state, which can interfere with digestion and recovery. So instead of changing your entire diet overnight, begin with one small shift. Choose one meal each day where you do not look at a screen at all. Just one. That small change helps your body and brain return to a more stable baseline. Another major issue is what constant technology use does to dopamine. Every notification, every like, every short video gives your brain a quick reward. The problem is not that these rewards exist. The problem is that they are too frequent and too easy. When dopamine arrives in constant small bursts, your brain starts adapting to fast rewards. As a result, slower and more meaningful work begins to feel dull, frustrating, or even painful. This is why deep work feels harder after scrolling, not easier. Your brain has been trained to expect novelty every few seconds. That is why digital fasting matters so much. It does not mean rejecting technology. It means giving your attention system time to recover. You do not need to make it extreme. Start with one 15-minute period each day where your phone is completely out of reach, and let your brain sit in the discomfort of silence long enough to remember what calm attention feels like. Once you reduce cheap stimulation, something else can return. Genuine curiosity. Curiosity is not just a pleasant feeling. It is one of the brain's most powerful learning systems. When you become truly interested in something, your reward system activates in a way that increases engagement, memory, and mental flexibility. The difference is that curiosity leaves you energized instead of depleted. You do not need to turn it into a huge project. Just spend a few minutes each day exploring one question that genuinely interests you. It could be about science, history, art, or even something ordinary that suddenly catches your attention. 5 to 10 minutes is enough. Curiosity reminds the brain that learning is not only about pressure and performance. It can also be about discovery. Cold water is another way to train the nervous system through controlled discomfort. A cold shower feels unpleasant at first, but that discomfort is exactly what makes it useful. When your body is briefly exposed to cold, it triggers a strong physiological response. Your breathing changes, alertness rises, and your nervous system wakes up quickly. But the deeper lesson is not only about the water. It is about teaching the brain to experience discomfort without panicking. Over time, this can improve emotional regulation and stress tolerance. You do not have to turn it into an extreme challenge. If you are new to it, just finish your normal shower with 15 to 30 seconds of cool water. That is enough to begin teaching your nervous system that discomfort is not the same thing as danger. And that lesson carries into the rest of your life. Then there is sleep, which is where some of the deepest repair and upgrading of the brain actually happens. Sleep is not just passive rest. It is when the brain clears waste, consolidates memory, stabilizes emotion, and strengthens neural connections. Many people try to improve daytime performance with endless productivity tricks while damaging the one process that makes real improvement possible. If you do not sleep enough, focus drops, memory weakens, and emotional control becomes harder. You cannot build a strong brain on a weak sleep foundation. Instead of trying to become perfect overnight, make your first steps smaller and more realistic. Move your bedtime earlier by 15 minutes and keep that steady. That kind of gradual shift is often far more sustainable than trying to suddenly become a person with perfect sleep habits. Real nervous system change usually begins with consistency, not intensity. Light movement works in a similar way. It is one of the most underrated ways to support the brain. Gentle exercise stimulates brain-derived growth factors that help protect, strengthen, and increase the flexibility of neural connections. That means you do not need punishing workouts to help your mind. Walking, yoga, stretching, and light cycling can all improve mood, reduce mental fog, and lower stress hormones. What matters most is not intensity. It is consistency, and the fact that your body is moving in a way your nervous system can handle well. If your schedule already feels full, connect movement to moments that already exist. Walk for 5 minutes after a meal. Stretch while waiting for water to boil. Those tiny moments may seem insignificant, but the brain often responds best to small, repeatable signals. At the end of the day, there are two powerful ways to clear mental pressure before sleep. The first is writing down a problem you have not solved yet. Instead of forcing an answer while mentally tired, describe it clearly on paper and leave it there. This helps your brain understand that the issue has been registered and can continue processing in the background. Many useful insights appear the next morning because of this exact mechanism. The second is what you could call a mental unload. Your brain was not built to hold every unfinished task, half-formed idea, and unresolved worry at the same time. When those loops stay open, your mind keeps returning to them, creating subtle but constant tension. Writing them down gives your nervous system permission to stop rehearsing them. It tells your brain that nothing is being forgotten, and that alone can improve sleep quality and morning clarity. Beyond short-term stress, your brain also needs long-term direction. Without a meaningful future target, dopamine gets pulled toward fast and shallow rewards, like scrolling and meaningless small wins. But when you define a larger direction for your life, your reward system starts reorganizing itself around progress instead of distraction. That does not mean creating a perfect 10-year plan. It can be as simple as asking yourself one question. Who am I trying to become over the next 1 to 3 years? A clear answer gives your nervous system something to move toward. And when that happens, discipline starts to feel less like force and more like alignment. Meditation supports this by creating space between stimulus and response. It trains the ability to observe thoughts and emotions without reacting right away. Even 2 minutes of stillness and attention to your breath each day can begin building that skill. Over time, that space becomes one of the greatest sources of personal power. When it comes to learning, one of the best ways to turn information into real understanding is to teach it back in simple language. This is the core of the Feynman technique. If you cannot explain something clearly, you probably do not understand it as well as you think. Teaching forces the brain to organize information, identify gaps, and transform vague knowledge into structured understanding. You do not need an audience. A few minutes of saying it out loud or writing it down as if you were explaining it to a child is enough. In the same way, noticing one small improvement each day helps retrain the reward system. When your brain starts connecting effort with visible progress, motivation becomes more sustainable. It no longer depends on huge wins. It begins to grow from small but repeated signs of movement. Strength training, gratitude, short naps, social connection, and morning sunlight all belong to this same larger system. Strength training teaches the nervous system how to stay stable under controlled stress. Gratitude retrains attention so it does not only look for what is missing or wrong. A 15 to 20-minute nap can restore alertness and support memory in the middle of the day. Genuine social contact releases oxytocin, which helps regulate stress and create a sense of safety. Morning sunlight helps reset the body clock, improving wakefulness during the day and melatonin release at night. On their own, each of these habits may seem ordinary, but together they form a coherent system built around how the brain actually works. And that is what makes them so powerful. The deeper lesson here is not that you need to adopt every habit at once. It is that the brain does not need to be bullied into becoming stronger. It needs to be supported in the way it was designed to function. It needs cycles of focus and rest. It needs light in the morning and darkness at night. It needs movement, nourishment, silence, and real human connection. Once you start seeing these habits as personal experiments rather than strict rules, it becomes easier to ask better questions. What makes me feel clearer? What makes me calmer? What helps me focus without draining me? That kind of awareness is what allows you to build a system that actually fits you. The goal is not to become a productivity machine. The goal is to build a stable foundation where clear thinking, emotional balance, and sustainable progress become possible. The strongest upgrade does not come from one dramatic decision. It comes from small choices repeated daily with intention. So if this made you rethink the way you have been living, start with one small change today. Just one. And let your nervous system begin learning from there.